So in the MLB, your future could be determined on a bunch of different things. It could be how good your farm system currently is. Do you have a lot of good or bad contracts currently on your team? And is your team's ownership willingness to spend? Because having no salary cap in the MLB, that could provide to be a major advantage or disadvantage for your team's future. And for today's video, we are going to rank every MLB team's future into a bunch of different tiers. So here are the tiers that we are going to drop them into. You have an elite future. Yeah, just one of the best futures. Maybe you have a great farm system, good ownership, good front office, and a good team currently. You're in a good spot, that you're headed in the right direction. Maybe you're not the best of the best, but you're right there. Then we also have, I want to put them higher, like they're in a good spot currently, but maybe just their ownership is cheap and I worry about them because of that reason. Boom or bust, maybe they're highly leveraged into a couple players right now and it could go either way, and maybe they're going to enter into a rebuild sooner than later. We have currently rebuilding. These teams know they're bad, but at least they're going throughout the rebuild cycle. And then you have the not looking good. Maybe they should be rebuilding, but they're trying to contend right now, and that worries me a little bit. So we're going to start things off with the Arizona Diamondbacks. And honestly, I don't think they have an elite future, but they think they're in a really good spot right now because the ownership has shown a willingness to spend. I think Mike Hazen is a good general manager for this team. They have one of the best hitters in the National League in Ketel Marte. They did trade for Josh Naylor this offseason, so they pivoted after not being able to afford Christian Walker. You got Jordan Lawler coming up, one of the top prospects on the market. You have a solid outfield led by Corbin Carroll. Incredibly young, incredibly talented, and they have a great starting rotation with Corbin Burns, who they were willing to invest in the offseason. Zach Gallen, Merrill Kelly. Hasn't worked out for them, but at least they're taking chances on guys like Jordan Montgomery and Eduardo Rodriguez. Their bullpen can be hit or miss currently, but I think Justin Martinez is one of the more underrated relievers in the MLB. So I think they're going to be a very good team in 2025, and I expect them to be in a good spot going forward because they have a good core put together. Next up, we have the Atlanta Braves. Yeah, this team has to be an elite future. They have one of the smartest minds in the MLB running this team in Alex Anthopoulos. They do a great job at investing in their young players before they break out, getting guys like Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna, Ozzie Albies, Spencer Strider, Sean Murphy, all under long-term deals that could work out mostly in their favor. It's been great for them so far. You got Matt Olson, who they were able to sign to pivot off of Freddie Freeman. They won a World Series back in 2021. They added Jerickson Profar this offseason. I think Spencer Schwellenbach is going to fully break out this year. Raciel Iglesias is a great closer, and then Strider back fully healthy. Even though they've lost Max Fried in the offseason, having Chris Sale winning a Cy Young last year, basically just eating his money to give away Vaughn Grissom. Like, what a fantastic deal. They do have an elite future in this league, and as long as they can stay healthy, they're going to be at the top of the NL and the MLB standings every single year. Next up, we have the Baltimore Orioles. I don't know. I want to put them higher, but they're kind of cheap. I don't know if it's more so cheap in handing out contracts because they've spent a little bit more money as of late compared to recent years, but they're not going to lock up Gunnar or Adley before they hit free agency and try to get them on an arbitration extension. They didn't want to give Santander that money. They gave it to Tyler O'Neill. They didn't want to re-sign Corbin Burns. And I feel like Mike Elias, coming from his Astros roots, has also been a little reluctant giving up some of these top prospects. And I'm not saying they should move Samuel Basallo or Kobe Mayo, but trading away some of your prospects last year involving Connor Norby for Taylor Rogers, I mean, wasn't maybe the best deal in hindsight. I think Felix Bautista can go back to be one of the best closers over the next few years. And I think they're probably in as good of a situation right now as maybe these teams here, but I just think they're a little bit cheap. And in the MLB, that can really hold you back a couple spots. Maybe I end up dropping them, or maybe I put them up in a good spot. I'm not going to drop them. I think they would go up to here because their young core is so good, and they were so bad throughout the end of the 2010s and early in the 2020s, and they built up such a good farm system. Hopefully we could see it on display this year. Hopefully Jackson Holliday can bounce back after having a rough start in the majors last year, because he's been so good in the minors. So for now, I got to put them here. But like I said, there's a chance that I raise them up a tier at the end of this. Next up, we have the Boston Red Sox. I don't know if they have an elite future because I want to see it on display this year. But man, are they in a good spot. I love the trade, getting Garrett Crochet in the offseason, getting Brandon Montgomery to fall to you in the draft, attaching him and Kyle Teal to get Garrett Crochet. I would have liked if they extended him, but either way, they're getting one of the best pitchers in baseball. They still have such an elite farm system led by Roman Anthony and Kristen Campbell, and then also having Marcelo Meyer, if he could break camp at one point this year and end up on the major league roster. But they were a little bit cheap a couple years ago, right? Like, they didn't want to extend Xander Bogaerts. They traded away Mookie Betts, which is one of the worst trades in franchise history. but at least they've spent over the last few years locking up Rafael Devers on a long-term deal. Didn't work out, but paying Trevor Story. And I think Han Bloom did a good job building up that farm system. And now it looks like it's in a good spot going forward. I like them just signing Alex Bregman, like Jarren Duran. Like, they have so much talent, even paying Masataka Yoshida. And then I'm hoping, yeah, that this team can be fully healthy this year. Hopefully Lucas Giolito can get healthy. And I think they're going to continue to invest in this team. I think they're going to realize that we are the Boston Red Sox. Let's be up there with one of the top payrolls in baseball. And if Anthony and Campbell can reach their potential, this is going to be a team that could win the AL East this year and could be in consideration to win the AL East for the next decade. Next up, we have the Chicago Cubs. They're a tough team right now. I kind of want to put them in boom or bust. I think they're a team that could kind of go all over the place here, because what if Kyle Tucker does not re-sign with this team in the offseason? I like their top two pitchers with Justin Steele and Shota Imanaga, but Jameson Taillon, Matthew Boyd, Colin Wright, how is that back half of the rotation going to look like? I don't think they have the best bullpen in the world, and I love Seiya Suzuki. I think he's been kind of underrated since he came over a few years ago. He's going to be entering year number 4. He's been a consistent hitter. Ian Happ gets to his good numbers every single year. They paid a lot of money for Dansby Swanson, still an incredible defender. Nico Horner and Pete Crow Armstrong can steal some bases. I'm excited to see Matt Shaw up this year. And having Moises Ballesteros, Cade Horton, and Owen Casey, like, those are good prospects that can also help this team this year. Maybe I'm going to put them in a good spot because they probably don't spend as much as they should. Maybe that's why I'm going to put them here. Like, if they don't pay Kyle Tucker, then they definitely should be here. And I feel like you're the Chicago Cubs. You're one of the biggest markets, one of the biggest teams, and they do have a semi-high payroll. Like, they are number 9, so I don't really want to call them cheap. I think they're a tough team right now. I think I'm going to throw them in a good spot because they have a good major league roster. They have a good farm system. But maybe if I have too many teams here, I may drop them the boom or bust. And this team could do great over the next few years, but I feel like they could just grab that NL Central. For now, I'm going to be a little conservative, throw them in a good spot. I mean, Chicago White Sox, they're currently rebuilding. Maybe they realized that. I think they probably thought they were going to have sustainable success with this team with Eloy Jimenez and Yohan Moncada and Luis Robert. And then it kind of just fizzled out, and they traded away Chris Sale. And they still had a good rotation with Lucas Giolito and Carlos Rodon and Dylan Cease coming up. And now none of those guys are really there anymore. I kind of want to throw them in just not looking good because, I mean, they are currently rebuilding. So I'm going to go by that. I'm like, they have an all right farm system now with Colson Montgomery, Kyle Teal. Edgar Cuero is a great pickup from the Angels, like giving them Lucas Giolito just half a year, not even half a year because he didn't make it through the rest of the year. We'll get to the Angels later. But Andrew Benintendi was their biggest contract in franchise history, and I don't think Jerry Reinsdorf is ever not going to be cheap. I'm going to keep them in currently rebuilding. I love Noah Schultz as a prospect. They got Drew Thorpe from the Dylan Cease trade, and they have a good farm, but yeah, I mean, I kind of just want to throw them in that tier because the White Sox were historically bad last year. But for now, I'll put them in currently rebuilding. I think the Reds, do I want to put them in this tier? Do I want to put them in boom or bust? Do I want to throw them in a good spot? Because I do like the Reds and how they're currently constructed. I love Ellie, obviously Matt McClain, Spencer Steer. They have a good core of young bats. We'll see if Hunter Green or Nick Lodolo will ever reach their fullest potential. They got Chase Burns in the draft last year. And I do think like this core can win the NL Central this year. I think it's completely wide open. But they have a good farm system as well with Arroyo, Cam Collier, Rhett Lauder as well. I don't know. I think the Reds, I think they are in a good spot. Like, I do love their bats. I didn't even mention like TJ Friedel or Brady Singer. I think I could want to put them higher, but I feel like they're always going to be cheap, right? And I'm not a big fan of Bob Castellani, the owner. So I'm going to throw them and want to put them higher cheap right now because they have the 22nd highest payroll. I'm not asking them to be a top 15 payroll, but we've seen them cheap out a little bit in the past. So I think I'm going to throw them there. Guardians, same thing. They have a very smart president of baseball operations in Chris Antonetti. And I actually faded the Guardians so much last year, and they ended up by far winning that AL Central. And they have some great players and foundational pieces like Jose Ramirez and Emmanuel Clase. I just feel like the ownership led by the Dolan family is never going to spend. And no matter how smart you're going to be, you're going up against some of these juggernauts. And we've seen cheap teams win in the past. I love like the Houston Astros back in 2017, but I just don't think I can put them higher just because I worry about them not paying for Shane Bieber when he's going to be a free agent. They didn't want to pay Francisco Lindor. They made some head-scratching moves in the past in trades, but they also make some good trades as well, like trading Aaron Savale for Kyle Manzardo. One of the smarter teams was on the other end of that trade being very lopsided, which is kind of crazy to look back on. And I think the Guardians can compete for the AL Central this year and for the next few years, but I just worry about their ceiling just because they are cheap. They're just objectively cheap. Colorado Rockies, they're currently rebuilding. They've been rebuilding for a while now, and they're another team that is currently cheap. I do like some of their prospects. I hope so, right? Like having Ezekiel Tovar, who's not really a prospect anymore, but had a very productive year last year. I'm very high on Zach Veen this year. Hunter Goodman, I think, could have a good year for this team. And then you have Abdul Amador in the farm system with Charlie Condon, your first round pick last year, and Chase Dollander, a first rounder from a few years ago. You just always have to worry about the Rockies because of their pitching staff. Maybe guys just don't want to come there, so you kind of have to build this pitching core through the draft, and the ball's going to fly out there, and pitchers don't really love to pitch in Colorado. There's some fun players on this team, but they're still incredibly young, and they may finish with the worst record in the National League this year. It's going to be them or a team that plays in South Beach. So next up, we have the Detroit Tigers. I kind of like Detroit, and I feel like they are a team that will spend when they are good. Now, they have spent in the past, and then there was when Mike Ilitch was the owner, and now his son, Chris, hasn't really spent that much for this team. And I mean, they went out and they paid for Javier Baez. They're going to have to pay a pretty penny to keep Tariq Skubal, but they got Jackson Jobe, Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal, Bryce Rayner. I think they are in a good spot, and I just like their future a little bit more than Cleveland. Maybe they're not a better roster definitively right now, but I think they'll spend a little bit more in the future. There's a chance this could change a little bit. And hey, maybe I put them in boom or bust. Like Spencer Torkelson didn't work out. Maybe Jackson Jobe doesn't reach his fullest potential. Maybe they don't pay Tariq Skubal when he's a free agent. So I think we're going to have a little bit of change here. I don't want to put so many teams in a good spot. Maybe that's just how it's gone. For Houston, I kind of want to put them in boom or bust right now because they've been the best team for the last 10 years in the MLB, both in the regular season. They got 2 World Series, but they did lose a lot of guys this offseason. They traded away Kyle Tucker, which I think was a good return, getting Cam Smith and Isaac Paredes. Alex Bregman left for Boston. They did bring in Christian Walker. They don't like to hand out long-term deals. Jose Altuve's in the outfield. They haven't really had a good farm system over the last few years. I'm really excited about Hunter Brown this year. Framber Valdez is going to be a free agent soon. I think it is boom or bust because say Cam Smith doesn't work out or Isaac Paredes, and then you traded away a top 10 bat in Kyle Tucker for not as good of a return. Maybe you're relying a lot on Jeremy Pena to have a good year. Their outfield isn't the best on paper. And who knows if Framber Valdez eventually leaves this team. They invested a lot of money into Josh Hader. That hasn't really paid off. They traded away Ryan Presley this offseason. I think they could end up in a good spot. But I do wonder if this is the end of like the Astros as we know it. And Jim Crane, I don't know, as the owner, maybe doesn't have the best reputation either, like how that team is going to go in a different direction. I kind of want to put, like, Kansas City has spent a little bit more as of late, and I wonder if they're a boom or bust team as well, because Seth Lugo is in his mid-30s. Now, they have a phenomenal pitcher they got for Aroldis Chapman in Cole Reagans, who is one of the better young pitchers in this league. They traded away Brady Singer. When was the last time we said the Royals can afford to trade away a solid starter? They got back Jonathan India. You got Michael Wacha, and you have one of the best hitters in baseball in Bobby Witt Jr., but will guys like Vinny Pasquantino, MJ Melendez, Michael Garcia, Michael Massey be good contributing pieces around Bobby Witt? Because I do feel like that this team is kind of carried by Bobby Witt. Now, like I said, they've spent a little bit more as of late, but I do think this team is a little bit boom or bust. Now, I do like Blake Mitchell as a prospect, and obviously Jack Caglione shouldn't have fell to them where he did in that 2024 MLB draft. But I think it's more so like you have your foundational piece in Bobby Witt Jr., but what if the pieces around him don't get where they need to be? Now, they were in the ALDS last year. They were phenomenal. I get that. It could be some boom. It could be some bust, but at least they have that franchise cornerstone, that blue chip guy, top 5 player in the league for the next 10 plus years in Bobby Witt Jr., or at least hovering around top 5 in the league. The Angels, I think it's not looking good. I mean, you could say this team is currently rebuilding, but they keep drafting guys like Zach Neto and like Noah Shanuel, and they call them up so quickly. Like Christian Moore is probably going to be up so early this year, and they never traded away Mike Trout. And I just like loved Mike Trout, watching him growing up, and I always work like I just wonder if the best days are behind him because he constantly gets hurt. They haven't really hit on their free agency signings. Like, does Kyle Hendricks, Travis d'Arnaud really excite you this year? Like, Tyler Anderson is fine, and you pick up Jorge Soler and Yusei Kikuchi. Like, maybe they're fine this year. Maybe they're around 500. I just wonder what their ceiling is. Like, I'm excited about Christian Moore. I'm excited about Caden Dana. But that's really about it. And I worry about Perry Manassian and Artie Moreno just not going in the right direction with this team. And do they have the smartest minds over there in Los Angeles? Because they haven't really rebuilt like these teams, like bottom out like the White Sox and the Rockies. And they haven't really hit on a ton of their draft picks as of late. So I just think it's not looking good. And I think it's more so on the GM and the owner just not really being the smartest baseball minds, at least we've seen for the last few years. I mean, the Dodgers, they're probably boom or bust. You could, nah, just kidding. They do have the best future in the MLB. They have one of the best farm systems, if not the best farm system. They spend the most money. They can get the guys over from Asia to come over, like we've seen Shohei Ohtani sign with them in free agency, Yamamoto, Roki Sasaki. They have so much pitching depth And oh yeah, you got Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, Max Muncy, Will Smith. They signed Michael Conforto. They'll spend every single year for these guys. They're incredible. Teoscar Hernandez re-signed with this team. I mean, yeah, you can worry about their health, but Blake Snell has been reliable. Not for the Dodgers, but he's going to be good for them. And you hope you can get something, at least a full season out of Tyler Glasnow. And we'll see how Ohtani's going to look pitching. I mean, they have one of the smartest, if not the smartest GM in baseball, in Andrew Friedman. They have the ownership group that is just willing to outspend every single team. They have the best future. If there was a Dodgers tier, like I don't want to be a Dodgers Glazer, but they do. And for somebody that, I mean, I'm a Mets fan. They eliminated my Mets in the playoffs last year. But I think you got to give credit where credit is due. And I think they are the model franchise. Yeah, they kind of get to start on second or third base a little bit because they're in Los Angeles, which is appealing for so many different reasons. But you can look at the difference between them and the Angels over the last few years. Like we've seen the Mets kind of tighten the gap a little bit with the Yankees in terms of reputation, but it just feels like the Dodgers and Angels gap is further than it's ever been. Next up, we have the Miami Marlins. I mean, I kind of want to throw them in not looking good. Maybe that would have been last year, but now they know with Peter Bendix running the show, they are rebuilding. They've traded off so many arms and bats over the last few years. Jake Berger, Luis Arias, Trevor Rogers, Pablo Lopez, and a ton of other guys have come and gone through this Miami Marlins team. They are investing into the younger guys. Like I love Yuri Perez. I'm excited to watch Xavier Edwards for this team next year. And I'm just excited to watch Sandy back, although I do know he's going to get traded like we just recently saw with Jesus Luzardo. They're currently rebuilding, building up this farm system even more. And we're going to eventually see guys that they got back from like Josh Chisholm and Augustine Ramirez and Noble Meyer is going to come up, and Thomas White and Andrew Salas and Starling Caba. And we're going to see like a new youth movement in Miami. And then when they're good, I'll probably put them in this tier because they're not going to spend like some of these other teams. Milwaukee, I think they're going in this tier. I want to put them higher, but they're cheap. They've kind of always been cheap, and they didn't want to pay Corbin Burns. They didn't want to pay Willie Adames. I'm not saying these guys should have gone paid, and they do pay some guys. Paid Christian Yelich. They kind of had to. They paid Reese Hoskins, but they're 23rd in payroll right now. You know who's 24th? The Guardians. So I don't think you're going to be able to, like, maybe the Guardians, yeah, they could have won in 2016. The Brewers have had so many shots and so many disappointing playoff exits. Like, they are one of the smartest ran teams. Like Matt Arnold and David Stearns in the past, they are like very smart in that front office, and they know how to win with their budget, kind of like we see with the Cleveland Guardians. But I just can't put them higher until I know that they're going to be at least a top 20 payroll, which they're not currently. Minnesota, I think this team is super boom or bust. They've had some RSN issues in the past. What is this core, right? Royce Lewis, Carlos Correa, Byron Buxton. These guys are injury prone, sadly. They have a solid farm system. I'm excited to watch Brooks Lee this year. You got Joe Ryan, you got Pablo Lopez at the top of the rotation, and you have an amazing 1-2 punch of Johan Duran and Griffin Jacks. I just think that there is a scenario where this year is a little bit of a retool year. You got Walker Jenkins coming up soon, one of the best prospects in baseball, Emmanuel Rodriguez, but he also has his injury concerns coming up through the minors as well. I just think their future is boom or bust right now. If I had to rank these three futures, I mean, I think the Astros have the deeper major league roster. I mean, maybe Minnesota has the best farm system. And then, I mean, Kansas City is Bobby Witt, so that's always going to give them an edge. Next up, we have the New York Mets. I think they are in a good spot. I wouldn't say they do have an elite future, but I mean, I don't want to sound biased and a homer as a Met fan, but they do have Steve Cohen, which is going to give them an edge over at least Detroit and Chicago and some of these other teams as well, because they could spend just as much money and just as much as the Los Angeles Dodgers over there. And I think Dave Stearns is just as smart as maybe Alex Anthopoulos and Andrew Freeman, like what he did in Milwaukee. Last year for the Mets was supposed to be a retool year, and they ended up in the NLCS. They just signed Juan Soto. They just signed Elian Pena, one of the top international free agents out there. I might put them up in elite future, but I think I am now. You can let me know if I'm being biased, but I think when you look at ownership, it's an A+. When you look at the front office, it's an A+. They have good players, right? Like Pete Alonso, Lindor, Soto. Maybe their rotation isn't great right now, but they made it to the NLCS last year when we all didn't like their rotation. And Yemanaya and Montas are hurt right now, but it looks like Clay Holmes. We'll see. He had a very good spring training, but you never know. He could not be great for this team. I just think they're going to have a willingness to spend. The farm system has a lot of quantity, not a lot of quality. So we'll see where they go. I may drop them. We'll see. Next up for the New York Yankees. See, this is like the debate. Do I think the Yankees are in a good spot? Yes, the Mets have outspent the Yankees, but the Yankees do spend. Like, they didn't get Soto, but they bring in Bellinger, bring in Devin Williams, another guy the Brewers didn't want to pay. Not saying they have to. Trevor McGill is just fine. I mean, they also paid Garrett Cole. You paid Aaron Judge. They would have paid Juan Soto. They've spent money out there. Carlos Rodon, Giancarlo Stanton, even though maybe some of them haven't worked out. But they're always going to be the Yankees. They have a good farm system. I'm excited to watch Jason Dominguez finally play. You got George Lombard in the wings as well. Spencer Jones. We'll see how these guys perform. I just think the Yankees are always going to spend. hate him or like him, Brian Cashman is objectively a good general manager. Even when the Yankees don't have like the best lineups on paper, it still feels like they can win the AL East every single year. I think they have an elite future. Like the Yankees, if I had to bet on a team to make it to the playoffs the most out of the next 10 years, I'm probably taking the Dodgers 1. I'm probably taking the Braves 2. And then just because of the lack of competition in the AL, like I'm probably taking the Yankees 3. So I'm going to have them in there. You can let me know what you'd agree about that. The A's, they're currently rebuilding, but they're eventually going to go here because we know John Fisher is never going to spend, but Lawrence Butler, Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, Shea Langoliers, like they're building something there. Jacob Wilson. It's an exciting young core, which is finally we can say that because like the Matt Olson, the Matt Chapman trades were so bad for this team and they didn't want to spend and keep those guys. They didn't spend for a while. And I'm excited just to see how this team's rebuild. Like if we're looking at the futures, I don't know, like maybe the Marlins or the White Sox are going to end up better than the A's, but the A's are by far the best team out of these 4. I think these are clearly the 3 worst teams in the league, like on paper and out of the rebuilding teams. Next up, we have the Phillies. I think I'm going to put them here. I don't know. Like, they may have an elite future. Like, I probably like them over any of these teams because they have arguably the best rotation in baseball with Nola, Wheeler, Luzardo, Sanchez, Suarez, and Andrew Painter in the wings. Now, their lineup is getting older, but you do have Aiden Miller in the wings. You do have Justin Crawford. Dave Dombrowski is still one of the smarter GMs. You could say he's a top 10 GM / president in baseball, and the Middletons will spend. I think the Phillies are going to be just fine, even as guys come and go from the lineup. Maybe Alec Boehm and Bryson Stott, and they're not going to work out, or Brandon Marsh or Johan Rojas, and we're seeing Bryce get a little bit older and JT get a little bit older, but I don't know. I think they're going to be willing to spend every year. They have a great rotation. I think they're in a good spot. I don't know. Is it bad to put them below the Braves and the Mets because they've been better than those 2 teams, or just as good as probably better than the Braves and the Mets, but the Braves are closer. I don't know. That's a tough one. You can let me know. Maybe I'm going to throw them in elite future. If I'm going to get 5 teams in there, we'll see if I get another team in there, but maybe I'll get a 5th and I'll probably choose the Phillies. And we'll see. Next up we have the Pittsburgh Pirates. Can I put not looking good? I hate Bob Nutting. I really do. I think Ben Cherington has done all he could with this team. You have Paul Skeens. I could throw them in currently rebuilding, but are they? Are they currently rebuilding? You get Paul Skeens, you have Mitch Keller, you have Jared Jones, and this team is never going to spend. If they ever get competitive, this is going to be the highest tier because their ownership will never spend. Their bats are so bad, and I do wonder if the Pirates are just at the dead spot of the NL Central. Would they move Brian Reynolds, their second best hitter this year at the deadline, if they got a really good return? They haven't drafted all that well. I think Tamar Johnson and Nick York can be fine for this team as they're their best hitting prospects coming up, and they also drafted Connor Griffin. That's looked good so far. And you got Bubba Chandler and Thomas Harrington in the wings. I just think ownership's going to get in the way, and that's just kind of how it's been, and you can only do so much. Maybe you could throw them in here, but I think I'm going to throw them in not looking good. I don't know. You got Paul Skeens, though. The Angels do have Mike Trout. I don't know. They'd either go here, but I don't know if the Pirates are currently rebuilding. They kind of are. I don't know. Maybe I'll move them up. I think it's just I want the Pirates to succeed. I was at their ballpark in the offseason. It might be number 1 for me. It stinks. For the Padres, I think it's boom or bust right now. With kind of the new ownership and their issues in the offseason being the sons of Peter Seidler or the kids of Peter Seidler, they don't want to spend as much, which is kind of sad because Peter Seidler really tried to win a championship with this team, and you have AJ Preller, who I think gets a lot of flack, but I think he's done a good job with this team, and some things haven't really gone their way, and they've made some really good moves. And AJ Preller is probably the best drafter out of any GM here in baseball, but I do think it's boom or bust with this core, being spending a lot on Machado and Xander Bogaerts and Fernando Tatis. Can this core help them win a World Series? I like Luis Arias, obviously love Jackson Merrill, but Michael King and Dylan Cease can be off this team at the end of the year if the Padres aren't willing to pay them. They traded a lot of their prospects away for relievers last year, which I think could be fine in the long term. They have an amazing bullpen. I think they're very similar to the Astros right now. I do think they can win a World Series this year. That is definitely a possibility, but I just wonder if ownership's going to get in the way in the long term. San Francisco, I think this team is probably boom or bust. I just think Farhan Zaidi didn't really do the best job. Now they bring in Buster Posey. They land Willie Adames. They haven't really gotten that big fish like an Ohtani or a Soto or a Judge in recent years. I like some of their young bats, right? Heliot Ramos, Tyler Fitzgerald were fine for this team last year. Marcel Luciano, but Marco Luciano and Luis Matos never really hit their ceiling. You got Carson Woods, or you got You got Carson Whisenhunt. I love Bryce Eldridge as a prospect this year. And yeah, you bring in Justin Verlander. Like, you got Logan Webb, obviously at the top of that rotation. Will Kyle Harrison break out this year? I think this team is very boom or bust right now because they don't have like the best farm in the world, but I'm hoping Buster Posey is like a different vibe check for this team. And Matt Chapman is obviously great. Like, him and Adames on the left side of that infield, gonna be a joy to watch. Next up, we have the Seattle Mariners. I want to put them higher, but I think Jerry Dipoto sometimes can be a little hesitant. Ownership could be cheap at times, could not be. I mean, like, they have the best starting rotation, at least in the AL, right? Between Kirby, who's hurt, but you have Gilbert, who could be one of the best pitchers in the AL or in the MLB this year. You have Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, Luis Castillo. I love Andres Munoz. I just worry about the bats. And maybe Randy and Julio could really carry them. They got a good farm system, though, so maybe I'll put them in a good spot. Because, like, between Colt Emerson, Cole Young, Zero Montas, Harry Ford, Felin Celestin, it's a good farm system in terms of bats. So maybe I'm going to put them there because, like, the rotation is so good, and if those bats can hit their potential, they could be very good complementary bats in that lineup, and they'll spend here and there, right? Like, they're not the cheapest team in baseball. Maybe they are, though. St. Louis, I mean, where do I put this team? Are they not looking good? I mean, they used to, like, what a fall off, man, to be considered in this tier. I don't know. I don't think they're currently rebuilding. Like, Arenado is still on this team. Sonny Gray is still on this team. They haven't really done a good job developing pitching over the last few years, and they haven't had the best staff. Now, Mason Wynn's still an exciting young player in this league. Same with Jordan Walker. Like, I still have faith in Jordan Walker to be a good player. Alec Burleson, Lars Nootbaar, they're good bats. Is there going to be anything out of Nolan Gorman this year? And how's Wilson Contreras going to look at first base? And then you also have Ivan Herrera now catching. I'm excited to see JJ Weatherholt, who fell to them in the draft. You got Quinn Matthews. Do I put them in currently rebuilding? I just think it's not looking good, and maybe they didn't hit the reset button. Like, they may be stuck with that Arenado contract if he does not return to form this year. Could they move Wilson Contreras or Sonny Gray? Maybe this team's more so in boom or bust, because I still respect what they do in St. Louis, currently more than what they're doing in Pittsburgh and LA. Tampa Bay, want to put them higher, but they're cheap. That's just kind of how they've been. That's how they've operated. It's not their fault what happened with Wander Franco, but Junior Caminero, trading for him, yeah, like, not great for Cleveland on that side of things. He is going to be one of the best young hitters in the league this year. They have such a good, at least rotation in terms of depth. They have a good farm system, and they just churn out competitive seasons with one of the lowest payrolls in baseball because of Eric Neander, and I think they'll be fine. I just can't put them higher because they're not going to spend, but I don't know. They've been linked to Freddie Freeman in the past. They've been linked to Aaron Judge. Is that all smoke just so they could say, yeah, we tried, or they could actually get one of the big names? We'll see. Texas, I think this team is definitely, oh man, do I want to put them in boom or bust or in a good spot? Because Seager and Simeon, like, they're getting a little bit older, right? Like, DeGrom is older, that rotation. We'll see how it looks this year. Like, can Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker be good depth arms for this team? They go out, they get Jake Berger. You have Jonah Heim. You got Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter and Josh Young. Like, it's a good young core still, even with the older guys on this team. And then Sebastian Walcott, obviously one of the more exciting prospects in baseball. So I think they're in a good spot because they're also willing to spend, right? Like, Chris Young looks like a good GM over the last few years, and ownership will spend. And then the last two teams, we have the Toronto Blue Jays. Do I put them in boom or bust? I think so. Like, this year can be a disaster if they're at the bottom of the AL East, which I think they will be. It's a very competitive division. Will Vladdy be on this team next year? Will Bo Bichette be on this team next year? Will they move Kevin Gausman? They don't have the best farm system in the world. I kind of want to throw them in not looking good, but I'll give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt because it's not the worst team on paper, and they went out, they got Andres Jimenez. I don't know if I like that trade because Spencer Horwitz, I think, was maybe better than Jimenez, offensively at least. And they go out, they get Santander. I mean, at least they're trying to get Ohtani and Soto and Sasaki, and they haven't really worked out getting these guys. We'll see how Jeff Hoffman looks. I mean, they're going to spend at least, like, they'll spend more than some of these other teams, but I do think this team could be entering the rebuilding phase in a year if Vladdy and Bichette are not on this team next year. And then lastly, we have the Washington Nationals, who have been cheap in the past, but not super cheap. I kind of want to throw them in a good spot. Like, I guess they're currently rebuilding, but they're so much better, I think, on paper than some of these teams. But maybe they're, like, more so the A's of the NL. Like, Wood, Cruz, and Abrams at the top of your lineup. That's amazing. The rotation depth right now isn't great. We'll see how it's going to look going forward for this team. So I think I'm going to give them, yeah, like, the benefit of the doubt. They're currently rebuilding. So if there was going to be a team that I was going to add into Elite Future, like, I think it's between the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, or the Red Sox. I kind of want to add the Red Sox there, but you could also have the Phillies. I think there's maybe a little bit of things like just lack of talent, maybe the ownership, maybe one different part of your team that's not going to, like, or it's going to hold you back from the Elite Future. You can let me know if you think one of these teams should have an Elite Future. Like I said, I want to put these teams higher, but they've been kind of cheap in the past, but they have good rosters at the moment. Boomer bust, like these guys will spend, but maybe their core is really old. Maybe they're just reliant on like 4 to 5 guys to really carry your roster throughout the year. So I think they can go in 2 different directions. Currently, we have rebuilding, self-explanatory, and not looking good. I'm sorry, Angels and Pirates fans. And that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let me know what you guys think of this ranking down below, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.